Kia, hope everything. With your rehab, kind of, if you could just give kind of a status update as to where you're at and kind of how confident you were. Very confident when we talked right before the surgery at exit interviews about being able to play at some point in 2022, and just kind of to give the status update of where you're at now and how you're feeling going into the season.
Everything's going really well. I had a checkup with the surgeon a couple of days ago, and we were exactly where we're supposed to be. Everything has been pretty tip top. I've had way more good days than I've had bad days of rehab. And so, yeah, it's when I went down and I had a conversation with the surgeon originally, we talked about it, and a long time ago, they weren't able to fix this. And then it was, a year recovery. And now as things have continued to grow and technologies continue to grow, the recovery's gotten a little bit shorter than that. And so, yeah, still looking like we're going to be able to play this season. And as long as everything continues to go in the direction that we're going so far.
To have this happen right before you were going to hit free agency for the first time, I can't imagine the timing could be any worse in that regard. How do you feel like that impacted kind of what your options might have been in free agency? And did that kind of, you think, play a factor into what you made the decision to do to come back to Phoenix for the 1 year?
Yeah, I mean, my initial kind of process of free agency was going to be a lot based on, what we were going to be able to do in Phoenix. And I obviously have a very big comfort level with the training staff here, and Derek and Hannah, and then my surgeon, Dr. Leah Brown, is also local here. So I have a really good comfort level with them. And right now my priority is being able to get my knee right to get it back on the court. And so that was a big part of my free agency. I definitely think it was probably the worst timing in the world for this to happen. And so it definitely, I think, made me seem more like a risk to a lot of teams, which is, it's tough as a player, knowing that I put as much as I could out in my first 4 years in the league. And this is something that's obviously super uncontrollable. But I'm grateful that, Phoenix was always very open about wanting me to come back. And they're a great supportive organization. I love the fan base. I love being here. And so it's definitely part of, the tough part of free agency is coming in injured and people not knowing when you're going to play or how you're going to come back. But I think here with the Mercury, they all knew how hard I work and how hard I come into rehab every single day, the same way I would come into practice or game days. And so there's a lot of faith that I'd be able to be back at some point during the season. And so, hey, you get to pick what you get to pick. And so I'm happy to be back. This is where I wanted to be.
And the last one from me, obviously, just in the last time we've talked, a brand new coach has come in, the roster's changed quite a bit, but to especially bring in the players you did, just if you had any comment on your new coach, but also the other players that you guys have brought aboard at this point, and kind of what your feeling is about where you guys are at as a team coming into this year.
Well, I'm super excited about all of the news that we have coming in. Obviously, we've got a really solid kind of base and core and vet core and leadership core. And so I think when you're allowing yourself to bring in, a new coach and new players that are as talented as we've been able to bring in, I think it's always really exciting. There's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve, just getting used to one another, but I think it'll be pretty quick for us and it should be a really good season. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks, Kip.
Of course.
All right, next up, we're going to have Howard Magdow, followed by Hayden Silly.
Hey, Kia, great to chat with you as always. Got a couple, to start with, just, to be going through this rehab, from free agency perspective, obviously it's a difficult time, but being able to, in a lot of ways, do the bulk of it around the off season. Just wondering if you think that has been useful for your state of mind and, being close to the game with your broadcast opportunities, but at the same time, knowing that this is coming in a few months.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I would say for sure being in the off season, I think mentally is probably better just because I don't have to sit and watch games or sit and watch practice, which like you said, I am very much around the game still. I do, Raptors games in person at home. And so they're still having that understanding of, you get that basketball feel, you get that in the gym kind of feel. But I think it's definitely been really helpful to just be home. I spent the first 2 months of rehab after surgery here in Phoenix. And really, I have some family here, but it was really just me and my boyfriend. And so it's nice to be back in Canada around, my parents and my siblings and my nephews.
Me and my boyfriend.
Oh my God. What are you doing? Sorry.
I'm so happy.
Hi. How are you? What are you doing? Media. Whatever. We are very happy though. Don't let her fool you. But it's been definitely great to be home and be around my family members as I'm going through this, and have a good team at home that works alongside the team here on the training side. And so it definitely makes a difference. It's being able to talk basketball too and do the Raptor stuff. It helps kind of just continue to see the game and continue to learn, and basically like watching film, but from different teams. And so that's fun too.
And then in terms of your shooting efficiency, there was a real return to what you were putting up over the first couple of years of your career. I just wonder, just when you look back at what you put up in 2021, does that feel like more of a baseline for you? Does it feel like a place that you can jump off of? Was it just being able to get better open looks, given the team surrounding you? I'm just curious how you see that now that you're able to reflect on it.
I mean, I think I shot the ball a lot better. And it was really just probably a little bit of a change of my footwork. We went back and kind of looked at a couple of things that I was doing. And so a lot of it is just, if you think the ball's going in, at most of the time to shoot it, it's going in. And so I think I just found my confidence in my shot again, knowing that I don't need a whole lot of time and space to get it off. And so it's something I definitely can continue to build on, something I want to continue to build on, the consistency of it all. It was nice that I started back on the court shooting a little bit stationary stuff yesterday, and it was like riding a bike. So hopefully that's going to continue to feel that way as we continue to progress through continue this rehab process. But it was nice to see it go in the rim a little bit more. And so that's what I can do. I can do that on a consistent basis. I just have to remember to do it sometimes.
And then the last one for me is just about your alma mater. There were a lot of people who wrote them off early in the season. To see them, even with Paige not back yet, have a big win like they did over Tennessee. Why do you think people are so quick to write off a team that hasn't missed the Final Four since 2007, I think?
I will say, when I was there, if we didn't win a game by 40, if we won by 20 or we won by 30, it wasn't good enough. So people tend to have really high expectations for UConn, deservingly so, obviously, over the years, and the program that Coach Ariema and Coach Daly have built. That leads to those expectations. And so they have definitely hit as hard of an injury bug as you possibly can. And so they're continuing to find ways to win and find ways to learn. I think sometimes for a lot of teams, if you lose 1 or 2 games and you're UConn, it's like the end of the world. You lose 5 or 6 games, and other teams, it's just like whatever. So, I think people are going to write them off. But the cool thing is, even if they're not a 1 seed going into that NCAA tournament, they're a dangerous seed wherever they are, because that's a winning program right there, and they've got some talented players.
Thanks to you.
Nice.
All right, next up we have Hayden Silly, followed by Paul Richardson.
Hi, Kia. Just want to thank you for joining us this morning. I just want to ask you about your rehab process. I mean, it's coming off an ACL. It's a rigorous injury. So I just want to ask, what has been the biggest takeaway for you in terms of your recovery? Like, what have you learned the most?
Rehab sucks. Honestly, I think when I first went down, a lot of the conversations and a lot of the advice that I got was really helpful from a number of different people. But it's, rehab is not fun in any way, shape, or form. And so it's just something that's hard every single day, something that you have to grind through. And so it's okay to understand that. It's okay that there's going to be good days and there's bad days. And so I've kind of learned how to work through whatever kind of day comes my way. You wake up in the morning and your knee can be feeling, my knees felt really good for weeks. And there could be one day where it just doesn't feel good, but it'll flip back. So it's just, I think the biggest thing I've learned is that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. And so the days where it feels like I probably couldn't do something as simple as just getting up and down out of bed after surgery, now that's like the easiest thing for me to do in the world. And so it's just remembering that for that one moment, something's going to suck, or it might not be easy to do, but eventually you'll get back to yourself. And so with a long process like this, it's good to remember that.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Paul Richardson, followed by Chris.
Hey, Kim. Thanks for taking the time. Good to see you. Good to hear the rehab is going well. Quick ones for you. One, can you talk first about the Mercury and how they don't just rest? You look at the additions they added this year to the team, and you got to a team that got to the finals, and how easy it would have been to say, okay, well, we got to the finals, but they're still improving. Could you just first talk about the organization, how they keep moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think there's a good understanding here in this organization, especially that as we continue to go, year by year, you have to continue to get better in a number of different ways. And so I think we did a good job of obviously the free agency. In my opinion, I thought we won free agency, and just making moves that were going to be really good for our team and filling in some needs maybe that we probably didn't have. But continuing to understand that it's hard to get to the finals. It's hard to be successful and have a winning year. And so if we want to keep doing that, if we want to get back to the finals, we want to win a championship, it's not easy, and it's not guaranteed every single year. So you want to continue to get better. And I think our organization really understands that. And it starts with, our leadership, our veteran players who continue every single day to come in here and get better and understand that they themselves have things that they can improve on. And they push us all every single day to do that as well.
And then after playing last year, with I guess the quote unquote big three, if we want to call it that, what did you learn from playing with them and your comfort level and how to be able to get your game in and mesh with theirs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did the best that I could last year of just trying to come in here and just fit as seamlessly as possible. And, I think I did a pretty good job of that. And we were able to kind of gel pretty quickly on the court. I think the biggest thing that you learn from them is just work ethic and what it takes both on and off the court every single day to come in and be a pro and to come in and be successful on the court. And so me personally, I had the opportunity to shoot with all of them, to do pre-practice stuff, post-practice stuff, be in the weight room. And so just having those conversations, seeing how hard they work, seeing all of the things that go into staying at the level that they're at, that was probably the biggest learning thing for me.
Hey, cool. Thanks for the time and continue getting better.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Chris, followed by Sabrina Merchant.
Hey, what's up, kid? Good to talk to you. Congrats on the new deal, first of all.
Thank you.
We wanted to know, do you think it'll be difficult to mesh with so many strong personalities on the team this year?
No, I think every team's got personalities, whether they want to admit it or not. We have good personalities, in my opinion. But no, I mean, I think every single year, whether it's, new players coming in, you just have to learn how to mesh with each other on the court. And so even coming in last year, the strengths of the players that were here are very different than the strengths of the players that I played with in New York. And so being able to find my places in the offense where I could be successful, or I could help the team, that's going to be the same thing that we have to deal with here, just in terms of understanding, what's the best offensive play, what are we looking for in this situation. And I think, Sky said it best, iron sharpens iron. You got a bunch of people who are competitive and they're hardworking and they want to be great. It just continues to push each and every one of you every day. If you can make practices harder than the games, then you're pretty much golden from there.
That's what's up. Good luck this year.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Sabrina Merchant with SB Nation.
Hey, Kia. A little off topic from the Mercury, I guess. I was watching your cousin at the Olympics this week, and I had no idea you had such an athletically gifted family. But what is that environment, growing up with all of your cousins and siblings who have been in athletics and like watching Sarah in the Olympics? Like, what does that do for your environment as you go through this rehab and just continue to make yourself better?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to obviously be able to grow up in an athletic family. I think the best thing about it was just no matter what situation you were in growing up or coming up through, the transition to college or the transition to the pros, there's always somebody to call because somebody's kind of been through that situation. And so you can bounce ideas off of them as to, how to face some adversity, how to get over certain things. And so that's always really helpful. It's something that I'm very proud of. It's great to watch Sarah right now succeeding on the Olympic stage again. And so that makes me really proud to watch her. I get to watch my brother some days, they get to watch me. And so it's been fun growing up in that situation. Everybody thinks it's like super cool. And I'm like, we don't talk about sports. We're a pretty normal family. We just sit around the dinner table and ask what's going on in people's lives. And sports is always kind of like the secondary for us. But we just happen to be pretty good at them.
But I mean, like, have you been able to share any Olympic tips, I guess, like, being in that bubble in Tokyo and what Sarah's going through now in Beijing?
Yeah, they're a little bit different, obviously, summer and winter Olympics and just the contingencies of the national teams, the different kind of rules around it. But I mean that we've kind of talked a little bit here and there. They do kind of like a 6-month training camp before the Olympics, which is absolutely wild. For us, we do like a month. And so there's a lot of differences that we can kind of talk about and compare within our teams. But just here and there, we're just more supporting one another. And then if I need them, everybody checks in on my rehab here and there. And so if I need anything, if I need to set up a new team, if I need to find, certain technologies back home to help with my rehab, there's always somebody who's like connected to someone who knows someone who gets on that technology. And so that's kind of been really helpful especially going through this stuff right now.
Thanks.
All right, we have time for a couple more. Next up, we have Dominic Francois, followed by Alex Simon.
Hey, Kia, how's it going?
Good.
First time writer here, a little nervous, but the question I had for you was, we know you had Mercury had the big additions with Charles and DeShields, also re-signing you, Cunningham and Petty. I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what you're looking forward to most this season. Obviously, it's getting back on the court and playing, and also how good can this team actually be?
Yeah, I mean, I think sky's the limit for this team. I think if you look at the talent that we have, the ability to score, the ability to defend, the basketball IQ that comes along with just having experience in this game and having experience at a number of different levels, whether it's WNBA or internationally. And so I think this team can be really, really good and really hard to guard. If you think of it from the perspective of other teams and they're trying to write a scouting report, what is it that you're trying to give up to our team? There's not a whole lot that you want to give up to us. And so I think things like that are going to make us really difficult to play against every single night. I'm just looking forward to continuing to grow as a player, continuing to learn, and continuing to compete every single day. And then, hopefully getting back on the court when my timeline says I can do so.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, we're gonna go back over to Alex Simon to wrap us up. And then actually, Howard, if you do have a question, we have time for one more after Alex as well.
Yeah, Kia, just one quick one since we had a party crasher on this media session here. How often have you been able to see either players from the Mercury in particular, but even just having other people in the organization playing basketball? Has that been helpful through this process too?
Yeah, I mean, when I was here for my first 2 months after surgery, I saw pretty much Sky D every single day because we were all just here. And so being able to come in and just, chat with each other and just have conversations and sometimes take my mind off of probably the rehab that we were doing at that time. That was probably painful. That was really good, but it's always great to see the girls and to sit down and have conversations, see what's going on in their lives, and continue to see them train as hard as they do. And so it's pretty cool in this facility because we have the Suns here as well. And so for my first couple months here, I had like 1,000 cheerleaders because all the coaches would walk by and they would be like, "How you doing today? Check in on me." And so the camaraderie that we have between the two teams is really awesome. And so it's great. I was back in the facility today for the first time when everybody else was kind of in here and all the guys were saying hi and checking in and stuff. So it's really awesome to have that and to kind of have that feeling of a ton of cheerleaders who are just hoping that you do well and hoping to see you succeed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice.
All right, and now we're going to wrap up with Howard McDowell.
Appreciate it. This is more of a big picture one for you, T. You're a former National Defensive Player of the Year. And so I asked that by framework of now that you're one of us, now that you're in the media, I'm just wondering how you go about measuring defense for players that you see. Are there particular metrics you think are more useful than others? Is it a question of film? It's a big challenge for those of us who are trying to measure it. And I'm just wondering how you do it.
It depends. I try not to be super picky on the Raptors when I'm sitting in the studio, but there are some things that I do go after a little bit harder than others. And so, for me, some players are really good at film and being able to look at their positioning and look at the positioning of other players and understanding, what will help them be successful. A lot of it is taking away a opposing player's strengths and their tendencies. But what I look at a lot is, I spend a lot of time in the Raptors game. So I look at a guy like OG Anunoby, who's technically a really good defender for this Raptors team. He's not stats driven, not always on the defensive end as well. He'll give you steals, but his positioning off the ball is big for me. So if I can see him helping and making plays that you need your mind to make, just in terms of outside defense and whatnot, that helps his other defenders around him. So that's kind of like my big metric is, are you helping your teammates? Can your teammates get up and put ball pressure on someone and possibly get beat knowing that you're going to be behind them to help? That's what I look at for a lot of these guys that I'm watching in the NBA to see how do they make those plays? How do they make smart plays to assist their team and making sure that they get the defensive stops? So it's not always about, stats. It's probably more about what I do. What I do is not always about stats either. I try to impact the game in a number of different ways. And so that's how I'm looking at a lot of these NBA games now that I'm watching and trying to make sure those guys get props for what they're doing as well.
Really interesting. Thank you.
Nice.
All right, Kia, thanks for the time. Thanks to everyone for joining. We will have this recording around shortly.
All right, thanks.